Walking out of executive session.
What'd you want? Come over here.
Hey, Maggie. No, ma'am. With the agenda. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. It is now 6:05 and this meeting will now come to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Richland County special call meeting for July 12th, 2022. At this time, Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Malinowski.
Here.
Pugh.
Here.
McBride.
Here.
Livingston. Teratio.
Here.
Joe Walker.
Here.
Barron.
Here.
O'Walker.
Here.
Mackey.
Here.
English.
Present.
Newton. We have a quorum.
Next item on the agenda is the invocation, which will be given by the Honorable Yvonne McBride. Ms. McBride, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you. It is my honor and privilege to have the invocation given to this evening by Dr. Thompson, one of our very own colleagues, and we're so happy to have him here. Thank you, Dr. Thompson, for agreeing.
Thank you, Madam Councilwoman. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for another day. We're grateful, Lord God, for your provisions, for your prosperity, for your protection. We're grateful for Richland County and for our elected officials, Lord God, for their sacrifices, for their family members who support them to do what they do for Richland County. Lord God, continue to bless them, continue to keep them. As your word says in Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent certainly lead to advantage. So Holy Spirit, grant them the wisdom to make sound business decisions. Grant them the wisdom to make sound policy decisions that will continue to improve the lives of those who live in Richland County and those who come to visit Richland County. Bless the staff members, bless all citizens and those who visit our great county, Lord. Be with them all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. I pledge
United States of America. It's public which is
Thank you, Ms. McBride. Next item on the agenda is item 4, which is the approval of the minutes. Item 4A is regular session minutes from June 21st, 2022. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes? There be, okay. At this time, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Move properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
yes,
Joe Walker,
Yes. Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 4B, which is again approval of the minutes from the June 28th, 2022 zoning public hearing. Any additions, changes, or deletions? All right, there being none, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
yes,
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is item 5, which is the adoption of the agenda. Any additions, changes, or deletions? All right, you recognize Ms. Barron and then Mr. Pugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a correction to item 21A, number 5, under the report for the Coronavirus Ad Hoc Committee, where it states that the Transition Homeless Center would receive $200,000. It should read $100,000.
Got it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to add HCAC's allocation to 23, which will make it 23C.
District 2, correct, Mr. Pugh?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
All right. Further additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair,
You recognize, Mr. Wright?
under number 7A, that can be removed. There's no new information regarding that matter.
No, no new information regarding that matter?
That's correct.
Okay. Won't be a need for us to go into executive session this evening.
That's correct.
Okay. Additional changes, additions, or deletions? All right, there being none, I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
yes,
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item on the agenda is item 6, which is the presentation of a proclamation. That's item 6A, a proclamation recognizing the Columbia Richland Fire Department on being named a fire safe South Carolina community. And that proclamation will be presented by the Honorable Paul Livingston, Overture Walker, Cheryl English, and Allison Teresia. And who you going to? Okay, well, Miss English, you recognized.
Proclamation recognizing Richland Fire Department on being named a fire safe South Carolina community. Whereas Richland County, South Carolina is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Richland County. And whereas the roughly 600 career and volunteer members of the Columbia Richland Fire Department are committed to protecting the public from dangers of fire and fire-related injuries. And whereas these activities and more in community risk reduction earned the department the recognition of a fire safe South Carolina community for the third year in a row. Whereas that designation came from the Fire Safe South Carolina, which promotes risk reduction programs in fire departments to prevent fire-related injuries in our state. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that Richland County Council members Paul Livingston, Allison Teresia, Overture Walker, and Cheryl English recognize the Columbia Richland Fire Department for once again being named a fire safe South Carolina community.
So the last time I was here, y'all only gave me 2 minutes. So I'm gonna follow suit, okay?
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, Council, and Mr. Brown in his absence, thank you for this honor. And I would tell you, Mr. English, you kind of said it all, so there's not much for me to say. Except I just want to thank you all for this honor, because we cannot do it without a joint effort with your support that you give us all the time. It's a joint effort between the city and the county, both our preventions in the city and the county. We got some tremendous people that go out and do a lot of great work. And this just shows how the great work that they are doing. This is the third time we have gotten this honor since the inception of it. We plan on continuing to get it because we continue to try to make both Richland County and the city of Columbia one of the safest counties in this state. And we appreciate this honor.
Jenkins, before you leave the podium and rush over for the photo op, I just wanted to ask you about my favorite constituent, Mama Jenkins. How's she doing?
Oh my gosh, she's doing great. She's still fussing.
You tell her councilman asked about her, okay?
Tell you what, as long as she's fussing, she's okay.
All right.
Always remember that.
Ms. McBride, you recognized.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to congratulate you all. And I didn't get a chance to sign the proclamation, but I'm sure that others did not get a chance to sign all. So we all fully support you. And I'm very proud of you.
But you know what? We know what's in everybody's heart up here, and we appreciate every last one of you all.
Let's get the photo, Chief.
I know.
There were four. Well, I gave her the ones that were filled. I didn't pick up.
And again, Chief, just thank you and the fine men and women of the Columbia Richland Fire Department just for your service. It's more than appreciated. Next item on the agenda is item 7, the report of the attorney for executive session items. And Mr. Wright has already stated that there are no items for executive session for this evening as part of the attorney's report. Next item on the agenda is item 8, which is citizens input. Item 8A, these are for items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing. Madam Vice Chair, anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 2 individuals that have signed up to speak tonight. I would ask, when I call your name, please come forward to one of the 2 microphones up front and state your first and last name as well as your address. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. First is Bishop Eric Davis.
The 2 individuals that are going to speak are speaking about the same issue. Do you mind if the second speaks first and then I'll speak after him? Is that okay?
Mr. Davis, so you would like to go second? All right. So the next person on our list that signed up is Robert Reese. If you would state your first and last name, your address, please, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Robert Reese. I live at 204 Sonoma Drive. That's Hopkins, South Carolina. And I rise, first of all, I want to thank you, and I rise to support the Gangs in Peace initiative that you have in front of you today. I am a resident of District 10, and I graduated from Lower Richland High School, and I was surprised this year that my high school had at least 3 gun issues and 1 student murdered this year. And I know our high school is no different than many of the others that are in this district. There were gun students as early as elementary schools that were bringing guns to schools. And so I just wanted to say that this issue is a really pertinent and pressing issue in the community. And I am thankful that this initiative is before this board today. I've had the opportunity since I've been home to work with Bishop Davis and to work with him in a number of capacities to address gun violence and to address crime in the community. I know that each of you have been invited, and a lot of you came out to see the facility that has been created to support the young people in the community so that we can curb those issues that are being that could help impact this issue in the community. And I wanted to rise and say thank you on behalf of not only myself, but also the countless number of African-American and other brown men who are part of this issue, who really get caught up in gun violence in the communities that we serve. And on behalf of those parents and all of those other family members who have to deal with this issue on a daily basis, we are imploring this council to stand up, to take part, to take your turn, and to really be a part of this issue. I know that both the sheriff and the chief of police from Columbia City Police are really behind this initiative. And not just this initiative, we work with them throughout the school year as well, providing books to, and these are books on public safety to young people in elementary school. But we would ask this council to stand up and do your part as well and to support this initiative. Gangs in Peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. Next up is Bishop Eric Davis. If you would state your first and last name and your address, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, my name is Eric Davis. I am a resident of 22 Keeneland Trail, Blythewood, South Carolina. Like many of us, I was disheartened and dismayed at the beginning of this year when we saw babies, children being shot by gun violence. I felt like I personally wasn't doing enough. I felt like we weren't doing enough in the community. But I felt that same sense of bewilderment, because I think many of us felt like, what do we do? I was called into a lot of meetings, leadership meetings, that I felt like the wrong people were at the table. The people who really had the ability to affect change and influence, they weren't at the table. It had to happen at a grassroots level. So I called on using the networks and influences that we had in the community to go deeper into the community, to the root level of it, and call these what we're now leaders, former leaders, now called street ambassadors, to the table. What I found was that they had the same sense of urgency that we all felt when we saw shootings at the mall and a 2-year-old baby or so being shot, innocent children dying. It affected them the same way. But the difference was they had the ability to do something. They could go into those communities and make change. The first meeting that we had took 6 hours for them to push out their differences and to broker peace and to create a system where we could go back in and affect it. Sheriff Lott, I talked to him maybe 3 or 4 hours ago, gave me autonomy to speak for him. And Chief Holbrook essentially has done the same thing. They all agree that since May 4th, when we met, there have been no gang-related shootings, no deaths as it relates to gang shootings. There have been some domestic shootings that had nothing to do with gangs. And it's because of the work of these men who are volunteers. They're doing this by their own volition, wanting to reverse some of the damage they did in the community. I'm a little disturbed because I feel like some parts of our own community are not giving it the sense of urgency that they are. If we don't do this, we're going back to shootings. We're going back to killings. I'm concerned that if we don't move now, we're going to be back where we were at the beginning of the year.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, that concludes the individuals that have signed up to speak tonight.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Excuse me. Next item on the agenda is item 9, which is citizens input. 9A must pertain to Richland County matters not on the agenda. Items for which a public hearing is required or a public hearing has been scheduled cannot be addressed at this time. Anyone signed up to speak, Madam Vice Chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have one individual that did sign up to speak, but looking at the topic, I think it should be under the previous category because it is an item that's on our agenda. So Mr. Barry Walker. Mr. Mayor, if you would state your first and last name, address, and you have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. I apologize for not reading the instructions properly and putting my requests under the right topic. My name is Barry A. Walker. I'm the mayor of Irmo, South Carolina, and I appreciate Chairman you allowing me to speak and Vice Chairman allowing me to also address council tonight. My topic is an agenda item. It's about the Broad River Road widening project. I sent you a letter, Madam Chairman, Vice Chairman. I copied Chairman Overture Walker on that letter, and I also sent it to the Administrator Brown. That letter is basically saying that the town of Irmo is really wanting y'all to continue with the widening project as it's being placed, as it's being done currently now. Transferring it to DOT is not a wise thing for us to do. We think it's going to delay the project even more. And our citizens have been patiently waiting and dealing with the traffic struggles in that area for a long time. As you know, I believe your Public Works Director is at the process of actually acquiring property to do the widening project. I encourage y'all to support that and to give him his resources that he's asking for so we can get that project moving forward. Irmo is steadily ready to assist you in anything we can do in our purview is to help you in getting that project done. And I encourage the entire council to evaluate that and to let's support that and get that project underway as quickly as possible. But again, thank you, ma'am, for allowing me not to put it in the right box, but allow me to address your council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chair, that concludes all individuals that have signed up to speak tonight.
Madam Vice Chair. Next item on the agenda is item 10, which is the report of the county administrator. I believe Mr. Brown is attending this evening, I believe via Zoom or by telephone. So Mr. Brown, if you're on the line, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me clearly, sir?
Yes, sir, we can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. Appreciate the opportunity to participate via Zoom. I just want to turn your attention to pages 20 and 21 of your agenda packet. I have a brief report to share with you. Want to first start off by talking about the work session that we're going to have scheduled on July 21st. that work schedule, that work session is communicating what's going on with the public safety complex process. So if you can make that meeting, it will be in the council chambers, but we also plan to provide a Zoom link as well. So please mark your calendars for July 21st at 4:00 p.m. in council chambers or via Zoom to get an update on what's happening with the Richland County Public Safety Complex. The next item under other updates, you will see this item at least 2 more times. I plan on putting the full information in your packet, again, for your information as council on the next July 19th meeting, but it will actually be coming before the ANF committee meeting. And you might be asking, Mr. Brown, why are you showing this to council before it goes to ANF? Part of this is because according to Title 24 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Richland County is required to submit a consolidated plan to HUD. And this year, because of some of the deadlines and the timelines in which we received information, and also based on our own schedules with county council, there are some things that are going to require us to kind of be slightly behind HUD's timeline, but we'll still be okay. So I want to give you an opportunity to see as much of this information for as long as you can before it actually gets to council. So along the way, you have an opportunity to ask questions and get as much feedback so that after we get the information back from the public and we get their comments and it gets to ANF and ultimately comes out, hopefully in a timely fashion, that council will fully be aware of what's going on, have all these questions answered, and then we can timely meet HUD's requirements for our particular funding. So that's why you will see that information in your packets a number of times before it actually comes to council for consideration. And again, toward the bottom of that statement on page 21, where it talks about what we're talking about with the HUD plan, while council cannot take action until after the public display period ends on August 8th, it may review and become familiar with the materials at any time, which is why we're going to place it again in your packet on the 19th before it even goes to ANF on the 26th to give you a lot of opportunities to see that information. So that is a big deal for us, and we definitely will need council support, and it will be staff's recommendation, certainly, that we comply with HUD, and we will be recommending approval when that comes before council in its final form. The next item I wanted to talk about briefly here is employee appreciation. We've done this for the last couple of years, and it's an opportunity for both county administration and county council to just demonstrate, in physical form, in a tangible way, that we appreciate the work of the men and women who are here at Richland County. So you have in the packet a number of dates there where we will be meeting at a couple of places around the county and providing box lunches for the staff. Again, just a way to reaffirm our support, a way to, again, tell them that we appreciate them. I know for a lot of them, this is just something that, again, shows that we value what they do. And something just as small as a box lunch may seem minute, but for a lot of people, that demonstrates that we're taking the time to show that we value them. And so if you can make time on your schedule to participate in any one of those dates on July 19th or 20th or the 21st, please let me and the team know. We'd love to have you out. And we certainly encourage you to participate if you are able. And then, Mr. Chair, last but not least, there is an item that I want to bring up that is not listed in the packet, but it is something that I'm asking council to consider. As we wind down the end of this month in July and going to August, we'll ask council to consider I think it's what I would use the term tradition, but what normally happens is at the last meeting in July of our committees, I believe there's a special call meeting that's called that will allow us to wrap up any items that may be time sensitive before there's a longer break between meetings. So I would ask council to consider that at this July 26th meeting date, to potentially go ahead and add in a special call meeting to allow us to wrap up any final business before there's an elongated period of time between council meetings. With that being said, Mr. Chair, I'll certainly take any questions, but that does conclude my report.
Ms. Teresa, you recognized.
Thank you. Just one quick question. So if we, I'm very happy we're doing the employee appreciation. If we do want to participate as council members, could we just get a little more detail? For instance, if we're coming on Wednesday at 10:30, should we come to the fourth floor? Just a little more detail about how best to show up. Thank you.
Right. Yes, ma'am. So what I would ask you to do is, if you would, you can simply email me and tell me what date you plan to participate and what time. And then I can tell you where exactly we're going to have the box lunches so that you will know where to show up.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Teresa. Additional questions or comments from Mr. Brown? All right, Mr. Brown, does that conclude the county administrator's report?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, it does.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brown. Next
Thank
item
you.
on the agenda is is item 11, which is the report of the Clerk of Council. Madam Clerk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Walker. As we mentioned at the last meeting, we are discussing the possibility of choosing a location for the 2023 council retreat. So I have collected the opinion of everyone, and the majority of we have received the two cities who have been chosen so far has been Charleston and Richland. And the dates selected have been preferably the month of January. So I'm going to ask council if you can please direct me into which city would you like to move forward with so that we can start making preparations for the retreat.
Vice Chair, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we have the clerk's office move forward with planning our retreat in 2023, looking at Charleston and the dates given in January based upon whatever she can find is available, the dates given.
Second. None. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski? No. Pugh?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Livingston?
Yes.
Teratio?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
No.
Barron?
Yes.
O'Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Conclude the report of the clerk. Ms. Carrillo.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 12, which is the report of the chair. At this time, the chair does not have any updates or announcements. Next item on the agenda is item 13, which I'll open and close public hearings. First item is 13A, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes and incentive agreement by and between Richland County, South Carolina, and City Roots LLC to provide for payment of a fee in lieu of taxes, authorizing certain infrastructure credits, authorizing the administration of grants, approving the transfer of certain real property and other related matters. That public hearing is now open. Madam Vice Chair, has anyone signed up to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, no one signed up to speak.
That public hearing is now closed. Next item on the agenda is item 13B, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of certain property located in Richland County and other matters related thereto. Madam Vice Chair, anyone sign up to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, no one signed up to speak.
That public hearing is open and now closed. Next item on the agenda is item 14, which is approval of consent items. First item is 14A, which is a motion by Ms. Newton and Ms. English.
Chair.
You recognize Ms. English?
Change the language based on that we had last meeting. And I would like to move to accept the Lower Richland Tourism Plan as a plan and forward it to the Planning Commission for adoption and to the comprehensive plan as well.
Second.
Okay. Second. Clerk. Mr. Malinowski, you recognized?
Hey, Mr. Chair. I had spoken earlier about this with a staff member. There's a lot of information that is not presented here that the public would actually have access to. And I asked if we could get that done. And I was told, well, it's in that huge packet we were given for the Lower Richland plan. But I think we need to make that available somewhere if it's not been done online anyway, or a copy here for people to take a look at. But the one thing that concerns me on this whole matter is the part where we're talking about we may want to have boat rentals and cabin rentals and fishing piers and whatever else out there is the liability end of it. And I was told, well, that would come about when we began discussing that. Well, it seems that we maybe don't need to put it on for discussion if our risk management people come up and say, you're crazy if you entertain that. And I think we should have some input from risk management before we move forward with even considering some of these items. So I'd just like to see that take place before we jump in with both feet. So I would like to have a friendly amendment to Ms. English's motion that says, and have input from risk management on some of the actual possibilities we're discussing to offer in this plan.
The thing,
Recognize Ms. English. Go ahead.
one of the things that they were talking about is that this is a plan and nothing would go forward without it coming back before council. And so as they begin to develop, I think there are 10 different things on here. Well, it's going to be a period of 10 years. And so as they begin to develop, they would bring it back before council.
Mr. Epps said that to me, and my point was, why put something on a list, make the planning commission have to look at it, bring it back to council, and to have risk management say, you really can't do that because of the liability involved. Let's pare down the list now before we make people read all kinds of documents and information if it shouldn't be there. That's all I'm thinking. Thank you.
Well, Ms. English, up the friendly amendment. Ms. Newton, I saw you gestured, so you.
I wanted to be.
Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Malinowski. As we discussed in our committee meetings, as we look at the Lower Richland Tourism Plan, one of the things about the plan, and I wish I had a better word, is that when we accept the plan, we're really accepting it conceptually. And so it's not saying that we're going to do every single thing as developed in the plan 5 years ago, but rather that we as a county acknowledge that tourism in Lower Richland is important. We acknowledge that it's an area where we want to have planning and invest funds, but it's not the acceptance of the plan is not even a commitment to adopt the budget as presented, that's there for us for information, but it's that we are then allowed to incorporate the idea of promoting tourism in our comprehensive planning process. So while I certainly understand and would want us to have input, not just from risk management, but legal and whatever other bodies were important, this is really a conceptual agreement about the importance as opposed to saying this is a checklist and we'll do all the things. So I guess if we wanted to modify the language, as opposed to just saying risk management, because any number of departments and entities might need to comment, perhaps it would suit if we acknowledge that we were accepting this conceptually. I'm not sure, but again, including this in the comprehensive plan is not a checklist for every single thing that was there. So I'd like to see us find a way to move forward.
Mr. Malinowski, I guess I have a question for you, but would it be premature to get risk management involved at this stage, considering that it's going to go to the planning commission and the planning commission will have to make a recommendation that comes back to us? And then, of course, we as a body would have to decide. I'm just asking. I'm not pushing back on your recommendation.
No, I understand. I understand, Mr. Chair, but and what Ms. Newton said, I've already committed to all that. I'm just saying if we don't have to do double work, why do it? That's all. So, y'all go ahead. That's fine.
So
I'll support you. I mean, I think we need to do something, but I just think rather than do double work, we should, if we can eliminate it. But if you want to do double work, let's do it.
Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
O'Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 14B. Mr. Malinowski, I think I may have mentioned this item to you earlier, but in any event, I think this item would probably be best considered after we've had the third reading with respect to item 15A. And Mr. Malinowski, if I'm not mistaken, I believe your motion would be an amendment to the 2005 zoning text, which is at this point defunct. And so we would have to vote on the third reading item 15A, which would be an amendment to the 2021 text, which in essence resurrects the 2005 zoning text. And so at which point we could consider item 14B.
That's
So
correct.
would you
We
be,
do-
so do you have no
so-
objection to us coming back to
Yeah,
this
no,
item?
Yeah, defer it till after the other one.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is item 14C, which is an ordinance establishing the offense of using or discharging, shooting or igniting fireworks or similar explosives within Richland County between certain hours to provide exceptions and to provide a penalty for each violation.
Mr. Chair.
You recognize, Mr. Pugh?
All right, Mr. Chair, I would like to defer this item, one, because we had some new language added, and I want to give my colleagues enough time to be able to absorb it all. And I also want to have the opportunity to speak with some community stakeholders before we move forward.
Second.
Move to properly second. That's non-debatable. So Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And Mr. Pugh, since this is being deferred, do you have a date as to when you want this to come back before the body?
Our first meeting after our August break,
So noted.
August 3rd.
August 30th.
Yes.
Okay, so noted. Thank you, Mr. Pugh. Next item on the agenda is item 14D.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize Ms. Newton?
thank you. Chair, I move to approve items 14D through F.
Second.
Second.
Properly second. All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a substitute motion that we approve items D and E together.
A second. It's been moved to properly second. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English, Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 14F, which is the Richland County Sheriff's Department Additional School Resource Officer pertaining to Keenan High School.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved to properly second. Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
No.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton. Motion approved.
Question, do any of these items need to be reconsidered, specifically items D, E, and F?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
To reconsider?
Second.
and that motion, Ms. Barron, are items D, E, and F, correct?
Correct.
All right, it's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Joe Walker,
No.
Barron,
No.
O'Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Next item on the agenda is item 15, third reading item, specifically item 15A, an ordinance amending ordinance number 05-53.5-21, amending the Richland County Code of Ordinances so as to adopt the Richland County Land Development Code rewrite and to replace chapter 26, land development, amending the effective dates of its provision and clarification of interim procedures. At this time, I entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Been moved to properly second. Any discussion? Mr. Malinowski, you recognize, and then Ms. Barron.
Hey, Mr. Chair. I'm going to refer our attorney to section 26-52 for amendments. And in there, A says, in general, the Richland County Council may from time to time amend any part of the text of this chapter or amend the zoning map of the county. In G, it says the county council review and action. 1, general. Following receipt of a recommendation on a proposed amendment, the Richland County Council shall set a date for a public hearing on the proposed amendment. The council did that. It was done. The date of that first public hearing was September 28th, 2021. And under G2, it says action. Within 180 days after the public hearing on a proposed zoning map or text amendment, county council shall either adopt or deny the amendment. If no action is taken by the council within 180 days after the public hearing, the proposed amendment shall be considered denied. Well, from September 28th of 2021 until when the public hearing was until the next regular session, which was May 3rd of 2022, that's 208 days, which exceeds the 180. So to me, this is an item that would have been considered denied.
You recognize, Mr. Wright.
Mr. Malinowski, the third reading for the amendment you're talking about was in November 16th of 2021. So the public hearings and 3 readings had already been completed in November of 2021. This is a brand new amendment that just started, I believe in May or June. So this is a completely different amendment, which we have had a public hearing for as well.
What was the amendment that you say was passed in November for?
For that actually is the amendment that changed from the 2005 to the 2021 chapter 26, replacing chapter 26. That actually completed in November 16th.
The date we have highlighted here of November 16th.
Right. So that was completed on November 16th.
Okay, then what's in front of us on page 119, which shows interim procedures. And it's the language that I'm not fully understanding, because under notice, it says within 90 days of the adoption of this ordinance. Are we talking about this actual ordinance that I'm reading from right now? This Exhibit A?
The ordinance is the ordinance that was passed on November 16th. What we're doing tonight is the third reading to amend that ordinance, because in order to amend the ordinance that was completed on November 16th, it took 3 readings and a public hearing. This is the third reading. So what's being amended is the dates, effective dates, and clarification of the interim procedures. That's what's being amended tonight. The actual chapter 26, that was already changed as of November 16th.
Okay, so that within 90 days of adoption of this ordinance, what is that wording referring to?
That was November 16th. Within 90 days of November 16th.
And also, though, throughout here, it says we've got inconsistencies, I believe, because in some areas it says zone map preparation process. And then when you get down to C in the staff reports, in the third line, it says land development code text and zone map amendments. There was a motion that was passed, I believe unanimously by this council, that said we would include the word and text by every place that said map. And that's not in here. So I think we should at least be putting, like in B, it should say zone map and text preparation process, because that's the process we're in. Just like it says in C in line 3, land development code text and zone map amendments. And then also in letter E, under the effective date, the last line it should say the effective date of the anticipated zone map and text amendment adopting ordinance, shouldn't it?
What? Mr. Malinowski, the text has already been passed. That was passed on November 16th. The only thing that hasn't become effective are the maps.
And then why did we have a motion that passed that said wherever it said zone map, we would also add the words and text because it was complete. And the reason for that was that we did not fully approve all of the text that was there. That's why we were coming back to staff members with all the comments and the changes and everything else.
No, that's important. That's not correct. November 16th, 2021, the text was completely changed. What was not changed at that point, it was actually approved, but the maps were not changed. The maps became effective May of 2022. So all of the text already changed as of November 16th. There were just interim procedures where the previous code stayed in place as interim measures. So the text actually was approved on November 16th, but there were interim measures. So the new text became fully effective in May. The maps have not become effective yet. What tonight's third reading amendment does is allow the old code to be effective until the maps become effective.
But tonight's third reading is supposed to change this November 16th date that's here?
No, that has already happened. What it changes, what this does is allow for the previous code to remain in effect until the new maps come online. Right now, there are no new maps. So until that happens, the old code will remain into effect. If it does not pass tonight, then we will have a new text with no maps.
So all we're doing tonight then is approving what?
Allowing the interim procedure to be the old code. That's what we're doing. And allowing the maps to, whenever this council decides to approve the new maps, until that happens, the old code will be in effect. That's what happens. If you vote it down, then we have no maps.
All right, but my big concern is, and I'm not saying that I'm the smartest person out here, but if I don't understand some of this, and I think I'm smarter than a lot of folks, then I don't see how some of the other folks can understand this. And that was one thing we were supposed to do, was make this perfectly clear for all the people in the county to be able to understand it.
Right.
And I don't think the way this is worded, it does so.
Right.
Thank you.
Well,
Recognize Mr. Wright.
well, basically what happens is in November, this ordinance actually is a November ordinance. The amendment tonight is to clarify, specifically is to clarify the interim procedures and amend the effective dates. So what happens, to make it as clear as I can make it, tonight what happens is that the old code from 2005 will be effective until the new maps are voted on and approved by this council.
Isn't it true that you cannot have a code without a map?
You can. It means that it wouldn't be an effective code, but
That's what I mean. That's what I
Right.
mean. So if it wouldn't be an effective code and we voted it down, then we really are back where we started, right?
Well, what would happen is we wouldn't be able to do anything pretty much.
And thank you.
Aaron?
So I anticipated that this would happen. So that's why I raised my hand before. And I agree. This has happened every time we had a meeting to talk about this. And it's important that people understand what it is we're doing. And I think it could not have been said any clearer that what we're doing is just, we're making some changes to dates so that we can continue working on the maps. And I stopped to say that because I want people to know what it is that we're doing, and it's very clear, and not go down a rabbit trail and leave people out in the dark. So I would like to make a recommendation that even as we put forth this information, should this pass tonight, and I pray so, that we, when we put this information out, that it's very clear, that people understand, because there's been lots of conversation about our land development code, and people really think that this is the new code is taking place and they're going to lose their properties and all kind of things. And we want to make sure that people know exactly that we're just voting on a date. So if the staff could, if I could make a recommendation, Mr. Chair, that we really clearly articulate, even if it means putting out a press release so that people understand what it is we just did, because to watch this and to listen to this, it would be very confusing. And I don't want any residents in District 7 or any district to be confused about something that we're doing for the good of the county. Thank you.
Who you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I echo the same sentiments as my colleagues. I think I spoke on this the last time we had this meeting, and this item was before us. Everybody that we serve, they do not speak land code development. And it is important that we have plain talk with our constituents, because as Ms. Barron just said, a lot of our constituents think that this is the end all be all when it comes to the land code development, and which is not. And so we have to make sure that we do a great job in telling our story. And when I say telling our story, make sure that we speak plain English when we're talking to our constituents that don't deal with land code development on a regular basis. Thank you.
Malinowski.
Hey, Mr. Chair. And with those last two comments, makes me wonder why we can't have our attorney, in conjunction with our staff, create something that eliminates all the legalese from here and puts it in plain language that everyone can understand exactly what we are doing, and bring that back at the next meeting. Because if it's approved at the next meeting, you still have time, then you go forward with your zoning public hearing the following week.
Got a motion, Mr. Malinowski?
That's my motion, to have them bring back something that everybody can understand, and bring it back next week at the latest so we can approve it and move on with zoning public hearings.
Mr. Chair.
There's a motion on the floor. Is this a point of order? Someone's gonna make a point of order? Is there a point of order?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. We're currently in discussion for a motion that is already on the floor.
I'm just making a substitute motion.
Substitute motion. Okay, so is there a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Okay, any further discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski. Pugh.
No.
McBride. Livingston.
Yes.
Yes.
Teratio. Joe Walker.
Yes.
Barron.
No.
O'Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 15B, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes and incentive agreement by and between Richland County, South Carolina, and City Roots LLC to provide for payment of a fee in lieu of taxes, authorizing certain infrastructure credits, authorizing the administration of grants, approving the transfer of certain real property, and other related matters.
Move to approve.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
O'Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 15C.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Well, I think before we move to approve it, let me at least put in the record what it is that we're voting on. But Mr. Malinowski, I certainly appreciate your haste, which is rare. An ordinance authorizing the acquisition of certain property located in Richland County and other matters related thereto. Mr. Malinowski's made the preemptive motion and it was seconded as well. So any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski.
Yes.
Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I'm gonna go
Chair.
back. Yes.
Do-
Ms. Newton.
Yes. Do any of these items require reconsideration?
Right, you
No,
recognize.
they're ordinances, so they do not.
Okay. Mr. Malinowski.
Hey, Mr. Chair, since we have gotten over the hump with this land development code, we had that one item, 14B, that we were going to take up after that. I don't know where you want to
That's,
put
no,
it.
that's
though.
correct. We were going to take it up after after we got through all the third reading items. And so now that we've gotten through all the third reading items, let's go back to 14B.
Move to approve.
Let's move to properly second. All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski.
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Horatio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
For this item.
Recognize, Mr. Livingston.
This item will have to be forwarded to the planning commission, correct?
Yes, it would have to. It would have to go to Planning Commission. All right, next item on the agenda is item 16, first reading item, 16A, an ordinance amending the school resource officer line item in the fiscal year 2023 budget. Ordinance number 012-22-AR of Richland County, South Carolina.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Move properly second. Any discussion? There being none. I'm sorry, Mr. Malinowski.
I mean, I'm supporting it. I just had a question on the figures that we were given on one of these pages, that they seem quite different than just the amount that we were approving for that one resource officer. And it's on page 190 in the blue where it says school resource officers. It's got transfer in, fund balance. Were those the correct total figures, Chief?
Recognize, Chief.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Let me say why I'm asking this. On page 190, where it's got transfer in, but on page 115 of our agenda, the first year says almost 142,000. But over here, we've got almost 2 million, and I don't see 142,000 anywhere there. So that's why I'm wondering, what's the difference here?
I can't answer that question, but I can tell you that the first year cost is 141,974.71.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay. I can't tell you about the transfer in.
Okay, can anybody?
Right, I believe I'll be
Oh,
okay.
Mr. Deshpande's here.
Mr. Deshpande, you
Mr.
recognized.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Chair and council members. The transfer in is basically, it's the general fund transfer in to support this program. So that recognizes that figure. Does that answer your question, Mr. Malinowski?
I believe so, Mr. Deshpande. That figure is now including that 141,974, correct?
That's right, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chief.
Additional discussion or questions? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski.
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Horatio,
No.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 17, report of the Administration and Finance Committee. That will be provided by the Honorable Bill Malinowski. Mr. Malinowski, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The item in front of us was a motion from Chairman Overture Walker and move to consider the Riverbanks Parks Commission petition to allow the Riverbanks Park District to issue not to exceed $80 million in general obligation bonds to make improvements at Riverbank Zoo and Gardens. The committee discussed this after quite a bit of questioning and answers from Mr. Stringfellow. It was recommended to move this forward to council with a favorable recommendation to approve this, but not unanimous. And that's where we are right now.
For the recommendation of the committee, any questions or discussion?
Quick question.
Mr. Livingston?
Is this a 3 reading item, Mr.?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I said, Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Recommendation.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's a 3 reading item. And he said it, yes.
Yes. Sir.
Point of order.
You recognize Ms.
Is this
Mackey?
not just a recommendation coming out of committee? So does it need a motion?
With this,
His recommendation was for approval.
right, and I
Yes.
just, and
So it was
That
just
was for
discussion.
motion that
doesn't require a motion.
Mr. Mallon confused me when he mentioned the split vote or
All
something.
right. So, well, any additional questions or discussion? All right, Ms. Barron, you recognized.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As I did, I took the opportunity to call Mr. Stringfellow today and just to speak with him. Whereas I believe that the work that the zoo is doing is great. And I've said it before, this day is before. The zoo has provided my family much entertainment, especially during COVID. I just have some challenges with adding an additional tax to the citizens of Richland County. We sat here just a couple of weeks ago and we did not approve a tax increase for school school districts. And if we're not to me, I think that, we know that education is important for our children. And we know that recreation is also important for our children. But in good conscience, I cannot say that I would vote to support the zoo and raise taxes, and I didn't do it for education. And it's, again, not something that I don't believe in. I don't think it's not needed or would bring worth and value to our economic system here in our county. I would like to continue to challenge the zoo and the staff to see if we can find a way, get in that think tank and find a way to get it done without providing an additional tax to our citizens. Thank you.
Livingston and then Mr. Malinowski.
Let me just quickly say, the reason why I asked and inquired, to make it clear this was a 3 reading item is because what that means is that it required 3 readings and a public hearing. And I just thought that I wanted to have an opportunity to hear the public speak on this, and then I can make a final decision.
Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I heard some figures out there in different news reports saying that 2/3 of the people out there today in our country are living payday to payday. And many of them, while it may be hard for a lot of us to believe that this is taking place, they have to decide whether they're going to put gas in their vehicle to get to and from work or meat on the table, or it's very close one way or the other. So even though that's something that it doesn't affect me, and it doesn't affect a lot of us out here, it is affecting some. And so even the smallest of tax increases could have a negative effect on some of our less fortunate individuals. And for that reason, I can't support it either. Thank you.
No questions or discussion. All right, there being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski,
No.
Hugh,
No.
McBride, Livingston,
Yes.
Horatio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
No.
Barron,
No.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton. Motion fails.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Malinowski. Next item on the agenda is item 18, report of the Economic Development Committee. That will be provided by the Honorable Paul Livingston. Mr. Livingston, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, we have one item tonight. That's 18A. That's an ordinance authorizing acquisition of certain property located in Richland County and other matters related thereof. That information is on page 28 through 18 through 221 in your packet. The committee's recommendation is for approval.
Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Malinowski?
Hey, can we get a map put in here sometime, please? I know it's got a TMS number, but for those of us that don't do a lot of that computer stuff.
She'll have a
I'm
map for second reading.
Thank you, sir.
Additional discussion or question? Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
you,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that completes the report of the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Livingston. Mr. Malinowski's rubbing off on me a little bit. Item 19, which is a report of the Rules and Appointments Committee, that will be provided by the Honorable Gretchen Barron. Ms. Barron, you recognize, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have one item for action, and that is our existing Richland County Council Ad Hoc Committee list. This list was sent out to council members, and we've had discussion about it as well. And we are recommending the updated list that you'll find on page 223.
Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Malinowski, you recognized.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, real quickly, under the committee, coming up from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, where it says ordinance review. Just a question, and that is, maybe we need to keep that one. If we would have had this land development code fiasco we've been going through, gone to a committee like an ordinance review committee, we maybe could have stopped all this nonsense and all this questioning and commentating. So I'm just asking, should we consider keeping it and have staff provide future ordinance changes to that committee?
Point, Mr. Malinowski. I mean, I guess you're right. If the LDC rewrite had gone before the ordinance review committee, problem is hadn't met since 2018. So while we have that committee, it still wasn't utilized for purposes of
what it should have been.
Correct.
Staff should have sent it there.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
You recognized Ms. Barron.
Thank you. So I would like to just have Attorney Wright to speak on this because we did discuss this in committee, the same topic. So if you could address it to make sure, once again, to let us know that we're okay with doing away with the committee.
Right. Well, a committee such as the ordinance review, or any, to be honest, ad hoc committee is meant to be temporary or for a specific purpose, short term. So the council can create a new committee and make it a permanent committee. But as far as ad hoc committees are meant to be short-term committees.
Thank you.
Ms. Newton and Mr. Acio.
Just a quick question. So by voting yes on this motion, the committees that are listed as inactive would be dissolved.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Acio?
No, it wouldn't.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that some of the things that we work on, like the land development code, council does meet in work sessions and such. It's not the same as a committee because it doesn't vote and send things to council, but it is an opportunity for council to meet and discuss and ask questions and ask for staff to bring feedback. And that serves a lot of the purposes of some of these committees. Thank you.
Acio. Mr. Malinowski, I thought I heard you.
You did. Ms. Barron's going to speak for me.
Okay, Ms. Barron.
I'm going to speak for Bill. That's a first. So that got me off that tickle. But anyway, so all of them are, all the ones that are listed inactive, we will do away with the exception of the intern committee, because there was some discussion about possibly bringing that one back, but all the rest of them will no longer exist. To Ms. Newton's question.
What about over the top council office overview and down further Richland Renaissance? They don't have lines drawn through them.
You are correct, sir. So that we are all on the same page. The ones that will remain active is the coronavirus, the Detention Center, the Transportation Ad Hoc Committee, the Employee Evaluation and Oversight, Intern, Office of Small Business Opportunity, that's DNS Committee, which is going to take the place of, so the Poundwood Lake, all those items now will go to DNS, which is a standing committee. And then the Richland Renaissance will remain. The Sewer Committee will remain, but when those items come forth, they will go to ANF, and then Strategic Planning. Those are all the ones that will remain active.
And Mr. Chair.
You recognize, Mr. Wright.
And just so I know it's understood that any item can be referred to another committee that's not an ad hoc committee like ANF or DNS or whatever appropriate committee. It doesn't have to be in an ad hoc committee, even if the committee is dissolved, the matter that would have gone before that committee can go before one of the standing committees.
You recognize, Ms. McBride.
Yes. In regards to Richland Renaissance, we've been discussing this for a number of years and whether this committee should remain active or not. And I was glad that the committee recommended that we removed it due to the fact that legally we no longer have a Richland Renaissance program. And of course, that's been going back and forth. So I think that the chair has the opportunity at his pleasure to form an ad hoc committee to address different areas.
Ms. McBride, I'm nodding my head, shaking my head rather, because I don't believe Richland Renaissance is being discarded. I believe.
Well, I'm saying that initially the committee recommended that we discard.
Okay, gotcha.
And I did not have an issue with it because of the discussions that we had had previously, and that we would do another type of committee to address one or two lingering issues regarding Richland Renaissance.
Yes, ma'am. Got it.
Okay, so I had no issues with the committee removing Richland Renaissance, and Mr. Chair, if you would do another appropriate committee at the appropriate time.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Mr.
You recognize Ms. Barron.
So with Ms. McBride's recommendation, I don't have a problem with removing the Richland Renaissance from this list.
You've heard the recommendations of the committee. So any additional discussion or questions? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski,
Yes.
you,
Yes.
McBride,
yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker, Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Approved.
And Ms. Barron, does that conclude the report of the Rules and Appointments Committee?
Yes, it does.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Next item on the agenda is item 20, which is the report of the Transportation Ad Hoc Committee. That will be provided by the Honorable Jessica Mackey. Madam Vice Chair, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item is item 20A, the Broad River Road Widening Project Right-of-Way Acquisition. The committee requests or recommends approval to award right-of-way coordination and acquisition to CECS Incorporated at a cost of $1.3 million for the Broad River Road Widening Project. To complete this work under an aggressive 33-month design schedule, staff is also requesting County Council to approve to initiate an eminent domain powers for all the parcels where right-of-way acquisition is necessary for the widening of Broad River Road. The committee had a lot of conversation about this, as well as Director Maloney providing additional information. This is an important project, and staff has really looked at it, working with the consultant to develop an aggressive schedule to actually get this done. And they're put forth a creative way to get this done in a timeline that helps to get the project done sooner rather than later. So the committee asks council for approval.
Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Malinowski, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's one thing that is missing from here. The attorney actually mentioned it to us when I asked a question in the committee. And that in saying we're approving to initiate eminent domain powers for all parcels where right-of-way acquisition is necessary for the widening of Broad River Road, we also need to add the language that says, after an offer to purchase was made and rejected. So that's my friendly amendment to that. We just can't tell somebody you're going to court.
Sir, right?
Yes, it's required by the eminent domain statute that we make an offer and initially, so we have to have discussions with the property owner before we can initiate in court the eminent domain process.
Like state law addresses your concern.
It does, but it doesn't address it in what we've written here.
But I don't believe,
I want to
well,
make sure we're covered. Thank you.
all right. Is there still a necessity for the amendment? I mean, I don't think so in light of what the county attorney has shared with us about state law. I mean, I don't think we want to violate state law and get sued, right?
We definitely don't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any additional questions or discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski.
Yes.
You.
Yes.
McBride. Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
O'Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
All right, you still have the floor, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second item coming out of committee is for the Southeast Richland Neighborhood Improvement Sidewalk Phase 2. The committee recommends approval to proceed with a project to extend a 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk along Rabbit Run Road from Garner's Park Road, formerly the Rabbit Run Connector, to Trotter Road S222. This phase extends prior work in the Southeast Richland Neighborhood Improvements Project.
Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? Right, you are recognized.
With the phase 2, how does that put them in terms of priority? Because there are other community development, neighborhood improvement programs with sidewalks, and I wanted to know the schedule and well, that would have an impact.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask Ms. Newton?
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. McBride, could you speak into your mic?
Okay, I'm sorry. The phase 2 for the sidewalk, I didn't know when that would be implemented. And would that have an impact on the priority of other programs that are underway for the neighborhood improvement programs or programs that have not been started?
Director Maloney, you recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Walker. And thank you for the question. This particular phase 2 uses money that's left over from phase 1 in the project and will not impact the other neighborhood improvement project schedule.
Okay, so I know that you're using the continuation funds, existing funds, but in terms of the program implementation working, would that have an impact on the other programs? Because there are some programs that have not started yet. So will this supersede those other programs for phase 2?
No, ma'am. We have 5 project managers and we're adding the 6th to our staff to ensure that these are all being weighted out to get initiated by the staff.
Thank you.
No questions or discussion? Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski.
Yes.
You.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Teratio.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Barron.
Yes.
O'Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Newton. Motion approved.
Vice Chair, any of these items need to be reconsidered? Director Maloney, any of these items need to be reconsidered? All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, move to reconsider items 20A and B.
Second.
So move to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski. Pugh.
Yes.
McBride.
No.
Livingston.
Yes. Oh, I'm
Teratio.
sorry. Reconsidering. No.
Teratio.
No.
Joe Walker.
No.
Barron.
No.
O'Walker.
No.
Mackey.
No.
English.
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion
Adam.
fails.
Recognize Mr. Pugh. Okay. Put it. Madam Vice Chair, does that conclude the report of the Transportation Ad Hoc Committee?
Yes, I would just like to say a thank you to our transportation department and their continued work on pushing these projects forward. We appreciate the effort. That concludes our committee's report, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chair. Next item on the agenda is item 21, which is a report of the Coronavirus Ad Hoc Committee. That will be provided by the Honorable Gretchen Barron. Ms. Barron, you recognize, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our first item, which is we may remember a couple of weeks ago when we had our budget hearings, we voted for our millage agencies to not receive a meal increase. And Mr. Livingston brought up the point that perhaps some of these millage agencies may experience a shortfall, and that we wanted to look back at their budgets to at least make them whole make them whole based upon last year's budget. And so what you have before you right now are those agencies all these agencies, items 1 through 5 that are listed here. And these funds will allow them to be placed at last year's funding to be equivalent for this year. So what we're asking is that we will approve items 1 through 5, and this will allow these agencies to have their funding that is equal to last year's.
The recommendation of the committee, any discussion or questions? Ms. Newton and then Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then just to clarify, while we're using ARPA funds for these, this is the lost revenue that we're applying this to. Thank you.
Mr. Malinowski.
Mr. Chair, these are considered grants, Ms. Barron?
So these items will not go through the grant process that we've been talking about. These items are very similar to some of the other items that we've funded out of our budget to support other county needs.
Are these, I mean, I'm guessing it wouldn't be here if they weren't. Are these allowable expenditures based on the Treasury rules and regulations?
I'll, if I may, Mr. Chair, recognize ACA Thomas to address this question.
Yes, sir. These are, because they are budget shortfalls. These are all also considered nonprofits. And because we're using our lost revenue, there's a lot of flexibility there.
Okay, and do we know, well, we don't know if they're going to be used for one-time funding once they get it or not. It's their discretion to use it however they want.
It's strictly operational budget to make up their shortfall.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Yes, I remember the discussion during our budget hearings. The question is Transitions Homeless Center millage agency?
No, ma'am, that's not. However, they were actually awarded $100,000 in ARPA funding through their budget process. However, in the prior year from lump sum, they were awarded $200,000. It was an oversight. And so the committee recommended awarding them an additional $100,000 to make them whole from the prior year.
So would not that make, they're nonprofits, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So all of our nonprofits had to submit an application showing how their funds were being used. Would this apply to the transitional program also? I understand the millage program, but I'm not understanding the difference for this nonprofit.
Like all other lump sums that were awarded through the budget process, they did submit a letter indicating what these funds would be used for.
With the other nonprofits, the ones that I'm familiar with, we were told that they needed to do an application, you know, not for a review, but just so to show how the funds were being.
Yes, ma'am.
And the program area.
Yes, ma'am. And for all of those grants and buckets of money that have been set aside for those, applications will be accepted for those.
Okay. So will transition be a part of that process? Will they submit an application also? That's what I'm asking.
If they choose to apply for additional funds, yes, ma'am.
No. For this 100,000 right here, because they are not a millage agency, all of the other nonprofits had to show how they were using their monies. So will transition programs also have to do the same thing with the application? That's what I'm.
Mr. Chair.
Recognize Ms. Mayor.
Thank you. So transition will follow. They'll go in that priority group. They'll go in the priority group with all the other lump sum organizations that we've had that will get funded. They'll be in that priority group. They'll submit their applications, go through the same process. We had to bring
I understand that part. I just wanted to know about transition. Would they have to submit an application like all of the other?
Correct. Yes,
programs?
ma'am.
Okay,
They will.
that's the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Additional discussion, this item. And none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski,
No.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teresha. Yes.
Joe Walker,
No.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Approved.
You have the floor, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So item B is our actual application and its process. For months now, we've been talking about the actual application and how we would get the funds into the hands of the community. And whereas we were very excited that we had completed the process, there is some additional information that we would like to be able to present to the body for consideration. And so because of that, I would like to defer this item until next week's meeting. And then at next week's meeting between now and then the staff will provide additional briefing documents that will further explain the process of the application and some missing pieces that were not included in the application. So again, I'd like to defer that item until next week's full council meeting.
Second motion.
Seconded, okay. All right, that matter is non-debatable. So Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Malinowski.
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teresha,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Mr. Barron, you still have the floor.
Thank you, sir. We have one last item. We heard from this group today already, but we did receive a packet from Gangs and Peace Initiative asking for award to supplement some activities that have been taking place and will take place in our in Richland County to continue to curb gun violence and gang violence. And so the committee received the proposal, did request additional information from the organization. They provided that information to us, and that was found in the packet. And so we're not providing a recommendation from the committee, but what we are doing is presenting this for you to review and perhaps entertain. We have Bishop Davis is here today. This will give us an opportunity to ask any questions of him. And then from there, we can make an informed decision as to if this is something that we would like to expend our ARPA funds for.
Any questions or discussion from the body? Mr. Racio, you're recognized.
Thank you. I guess my main concern with something like this, I'm supportive of the work that's being done, is around public funding going to mixing with religious organizations. So can we address that issue, please?
So I will go ahead and, Mr. Chair, if we may.
Well, I think let me ask you this, Mr. Racio. Is your question more of a legal one?
Yes. How are we ensuring that no public money is going into a religious organization?
Mr. Wright, would you care to address that?
Yes. As far as the public money or grant funds going to a religious organization, what the Supreme Court has said is that a religious organization cannot use any part of a direct grant to fund religious worship, instruction, or proselytization. Organizations may use government money only to support the non-religious social services that they provide. So they can get government funds. It just has to be for non-religious social services. So they can't be used for any inherently religious activities such as worship, instruction, or proselytization. But if they use it for non-religious social services, it can be used. They just have to account for how they use the funds and make sure that it's not for the religious purposes.
Okay. And so no part of this program involves any kind of religious instruction or anything like that.
Sounds like that may be a question more appropriate for Bishop Davis. So Bishop Davis, if you wouldn't mind coming down to the podium and just.
Thank you all. The simple answer to that would be no. We are facilitating an emergency situation, and we have been for the past 2.5 months. As a matter of fact, the group hasn't even met in the sanctuary. They've been meeting in a recreational facility because this is one of the uses that we built the facility for a community. And no, so all we're doing is trying to stand this organization up on its own merit, but because it derived out of an emergency situation, they were not an organized entity. We have lent them our CDC, which is an umbrella CDC, created a category for this organization to be able to receive funds to operate independent of our church activities. As a matter of fact, we haven't even used that CDC in some time. So it's for the purposes of the community so we can not lose this moment we have. It's kind of lightning in a bottle. And I'm also concerned that if we do not show as a county and city, I want to be clear, this is a city and county collaborative initiative that we put forth, that if we as a county don't affirm this group, we may lose them. And if we lose them, we're going to have a problem. So we're doing everything we can as a church to stand them up independently as an organization.
Mr. Davis, answer the question now. Thank you, Bishop.
Mr. Chair.
Who's that? That's Mr. Wright.
Yeah. And just also to add, there have been a number of recent Supreme Court decisions that say that basically religious organizations stand just as any other organization. So we can't not give them money because they are a religious organization. If they don't meet your other requirements, that's fine, but it can't be because they're a religious organization.
Right, you recognize.
Let me applaud the combat violence that you're doing in Richland County. Of course, my concern is I'm a process person, and I think that everything has procedure, and this is out of our process. When we did the budget in May or June, we decided that the millage agencies could come because of the emergency, and we would use ARPA funds. But all of the nonprofits had to go through a competitive process. And I know it's not intentional, but this is circumventing that competitive process. We have an emergency here in Richland County. We have a mental health emergency. And there are funds that are available to help mental health entities, but they would have to go through the competitive process to get that funding. We have recently, I participated in a gun buyback program with an additional family component that will work with the families of these young people that are out there using guns to kill. And the program, the gun buyback program, which the sheriff's office participated in, as well as the City of Columbia Police Department, they all supported the program. They had so many people turning in guns, they ran out of funds for them. They came to me and asked, we need funding to help families, to help fight this violence in our community. And I had to say, look, we have a process in place. We will be putting out an RFP describing how you can receive these funds. And everyone will have an opportunity to apply for these funds. So I had to tell this group that's well-known in Columbia, that has been here for years and years working and has been successful in some of the work. I had to tell them, you must go through that competitive process. And so I say the same thing for this program. We cannot circumvent the process. All of it is an emergency. We must give them, and this is a really good general summary and layout, and providing people to come to have a hearing with the council is really exceptional because we don't normally do that. But we cannot circumvent our process. We said this was competitive and it must remain competitive unless you're going to be able to recommend a program. I'm going to be able to recommend a program that has a solid foundation, but those people must go through the competitive process like everybody. We have to be fair and we have to be open, transparent with what we're doing. So I think that this is out of the process, but I think once we have our RFP, our request for proposal completed, we will send that out and they will have the opportunity to apply for this grant and they will be evaluated. And I'm thinking that the program seems so good that I'm sure that they probably would make it through, but I don't think it's fair to the other nonprofits that have worked so hard within our communities. So I think that this is outside of our process. And we stated as a council that we were going to make this competitive for all nonprofits. Thank you.
May I speak to that?
Well, actually, Bishop, no. I mean, certainly we appreciate you coming down, but at this point, it would be improper. Okay, any additional discussion or questions from the body? Mr. Malinowski, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Councilwoman McBride and all that she said. I also have a question for staff or our attorney. Normally, if we get involved with any type of an organization where we're providing them these large amounts of funds, we have some type of memorandum of understanding, or in the case of another municipality, an intergovernmental agreement. Is this something that would be required for this?
That's right.
With these funds, for the ARPA funds, it, like Mr. Bride just stated, there's a process that's in place. So we don't do those agreements for all of these organizations. It's approved based on the application and whether they meet the requirements or not.
Okay, so we forego an MOU, but we do follow the process.
Right.
Thank you. And also, a couple other questions I had, and we don't need these answers tonight, but I'd like to have them. And that is the facility rental that's down here. I'd like to know what the normal rental fee for that facility is. If we can get that information, please. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Recognize Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, sir. To address Mr. Malinowski's question regarding an MOU, if they are awarded funds, there is a grant award letter that they must, it's basically a grant contract that they have to sign that agrees to abide by all terms, all reporting, and that there's a clawback provision in it as well.
Yeah.
That's Mr. Malinowski.
Yeah, that's fine. And the reason I'll mention about when I mentioned about the normal rental fee, has that been provided to anyone here?
No, sir.
Okay. I think it'd be good to know that. And the reason I'd like to know that is this a discount type of a fee we're getting, or is that the normal fee? If that's a normal fee, then I'm not so sure about the intent of it. I mean, this is coming out to roughly $142 an hour to rent a gym between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., where I don't think there's a lot of demand at that time of the evening for such a facility. And also it was mentioned that these volunteers, that if something's not done immediately, we're going to lose them. Well, I saw a news story a while back that talked about these volunteers and how good they were doing for the community. They were proud to be involved. Nobody said anything that we're only volunteering if the money comes around. So what is the true motive here then? Thank you.
Malinowski, Yes, in response to your question, I believe the Bishop Davis was gesturing there in the in the gallery, but I'm assuming he could provide that information to you probably after the meeting this evening. Ms. Teresa and then Mr. Pugh.
There's been quite a bit of discussion tonight, and there's some information that council members would like. I move to defer this item until next week's council meeting.
A second?
Yes, that's a motion.
Been moved properly second. Okay. Well, that's non-debatable. So
I did.
Yes.
I move to not recommend funding for this, for the gangs program.
Well,
Was she?
no, she's already made a motion to defer.
Oh, it was second. I thought you said it was not second.
No.
Okay.
It's been second. I said it's non-debatable.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Malinowski.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. McBride isn't debating it. Is a motion, is a substitute motion proper after a deferral, attorney?
I think once the deferral motion was made, it needs to be voted on.
Voted on. Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski. You,
Yes.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Ratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right. Madam, well, Ms. Barron, does that conclude the report of the Coronavirus Ad Hoc Committee?
Yes, sir, it does. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 22, report of the Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee. That would be provided by the Honorable Jessica Mackey. Madam Vice Chair, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Council members, if you would, please make sure to turn to your packet and look at page 281, or beginning at page 281. As we all remember, we started this process back at the end of 2021, and to develop a strategic plan that would kind of guide us as we move forward and ideas that we all agreed upon. We started out with a retreat in November, and it was a great full day session where we gave ideas, and we followed this up again in January at our annual retreat with more ideas. And the committee has continued to work to develop this document that is before you today. I thank you all for your input, ideas, and I feel like this is a true holistic plan that will guide us and staff for the next 3 years. And you'll see that it's very detailed, but the key places to look at would be at the end where we have our strategic goals and objectives that are actually laid out, our 7 goals that we're looking at with objectives under each of those. The committee has recommended this item come before you for approval, for a plan that staff can use and that we will use in conversations moving forward. However, there's one piece of the document that, in addition to asking for approval, we would ask for your, I guess, final thoughts on our draft vision statement. And that's on page 284 of 347. There's a draft vision statement, and in red, there are 2 words, community or county. The committee is seeking your final approval as we agree on the vision statement. So it would be either Richland County will be a leading community, creating opportunities for equitable, sustainable, and meaningful growth and living for all residents, or it will be Richland County will be a leading county, creating opportunities for equitable, sustainable, and meaningful growth and living for all residents. So, Mr. Chair, I would like to have some discussions from my colleagues, first related to the vision statement, and then would like to take a vote related to approval of the entire plan that is before you.
Yes, Madam Vice Chair. Questions, discussion? Ms. McBride, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair, I really don't have any heartburn over whether you use the term community or county. I have no heartburn over it, so.
Well, thank you, Ms. McBride.
Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I kind of didn't think we should use county because we're repeating it very close to the first time we used county with Richland County opening the way. Is it possible we could say Richland County will be a leader in creating opportunities?
We're looking at community or county. Not my way, just the committee, sir. So community or county.
Well, you know, well, I guess the question I have is,
I've still got another question. That is on all these bar charts that are here. And further in the report, it shows that there were 4 and sometimes 5 people that actually had input on these things. Is that number only the number of council members, or was that staff and council members?
That would have been staff and council members because that was based on the information that was collected when we were in Greenville.
We've got 4 and 5 votes creating some recommendation here of which we don't even know how many. It could have been 1 or 2 council members. All right, doesn't seem to me a very big amount. Thank you.
questions or discussion? Right?
I'm trying. I'm really trying. So
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying not to say anything. So for just for introduction and background, on about the third sentence, page 2, 285, page 2. Okay, it states that the planning workshop was Richland County's first such workshop conducted in many years, and the first for the current elected and appointed leadership term. I know that we've done a number of planning workshops, and I just don't see, I can see where it was the first one that's done for the current appointed leadership team. Okay, on page 285.
The first paragraph.
And so this, yeah, this is the, this is something that, this will be a public document, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my concern is that, Mr. Livingston, under you and other chairpersons, we had Richland County, we had workshops, planning workshops. Excuse me?
I agree with you.
And we had some very good ones. And during COVID, we did not have any. So I think that statement is somewhat misleading. And I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but it could, you know, we could delete that part and say this was the first for the current elected and appointed leadership team. That's fine. But I think the other statement is not quite true.
May I be recognized?
You recognize me, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McBride, for providing additional comments related to the introduction and background. I do see where you're coming from. This document was developed by our consultants and provided in several drafts to council members for past 6 months. This document, I see what you're saying. I think the intent was just to kind of set the stage, and as folks read it, understand that this is something that is just done with newly elected folks, with new leadership, to show that we are all coming together. We hadn't done it in a few years, and here is where we're going with it. So I don't think it was any ill intent behind it. So
I don't
it
think
was
so.
just kind of to set the stage and say, hey, this is the intro, and this is what is happening right now with the council.
I agree 100%.
Okay.
But this is a document that's going down in history. And I don't think it reflects well on the counseling that we did have. And that's what I was thinking about, the historical perspective of this document.
So what would your recommendation be?
I would delete the, this planning workshop was Richland County's first such a workshop conducted in many years.
So this planning workshop was the first for the current elected and appointed leadership team.
And that's just from a historical perspective and some facts that's in it.
Thank you. Are there any other thoughts related to community or county in the vision statement?
Madam Vice Chair.
Mr. Walker, you're recognized.
Ms. McBride, would you accept a friendly amendment to your proposed motion and include that we use the word community as requested by the committee?
I'm fine with.
Thank you.
Additional questions or discussion? Okay. And Ms. McBride, has your motion has been seconded?
I did.
Has been seconded. Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Yes.
Hugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair. Next item on the agenda is item 23, other items. Will someone please make a motion approving all three of these items?
Mr. Chair,
Recognize Mr. Pugh.
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 23A through C.
Is there a second?
Second.
That's a resounding second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please take the vote.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Livingston, McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Aye.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
I move to reconsider, Mr. Chair.
Properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Joe Walker,
No.
Barron,
No.
O'Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Next item on the agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Sorry.
Madam Vice Chair.
Yes. I'm sorry. Can we get a reconsideration for item 22A?
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Is there a second?
Mr. Chair, can I add to Ms. Mackey's for
So we
reconsideration?
need to reconsider item 22A and you go ahead, Ms. Barron.
I'm sorry, 21A,
1A, 1 through 5, right?
correct.
Okay, and Ms. Teratio?
Could we just state what those are?
Yes.
Sure. So item 22A, that's a report of the Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee. That's the strategic planning report for 22A, which Ms. Mackey has moved to have that reconsidered, and Ms. Barron has moved to reconsider items 21A, 1 through 5. Okay,
And that's the second.
then there's a second. There's a second for, okay, it's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please take the vote for reconsideration on items 22A and items 22A, 1 through 5.
Malinowski.
No.
Pugh,
Oh.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Joe Walker,
No.
Barron,
No.
O'Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
All right, item 24, which is executive session. There are no remaining executive session items. Item 25, motion period. There are no motions. Item
To adjourn.
26.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sorry. Do we need to make a motion to have our special called meeting on July 26th at the request of the county administrator?
Second.
Motion is a second. Properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Malinowski,
Yeah.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Maybe.
Yes, yes.
You're rolling now.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Move to
Item
adjourn.
26.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second.
Mr. Chair.
Non-debatable, Mr. Malinowski.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, this was the,
You're recognized.
thank you, that motion for a special call meeting, that is pending that there are any time sensitive items, right? That's what the administrator said, in case there are time-sensitive items. So I think it needs to be pending on any time-sensitive
I thought
item.
he
I'm
requested.
quite sure someone will find something that's time sensitive, Mr. Malinowski.
Or they think it will.
You won't be disappointed, I assure you. All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote on adjournment.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
O'Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion
Yes.
approved.
We are adjourned.